Wow, it's 2025, January. Asmongold just figured out that Elon Musk is not a real gamer, and Elon Musk just figured out that Asmongold is not a real gamer. And time after time, I go on my YouTube channel and I try to make the awesome claim that I rewrote Warcraft because I'm so smart. But what happens if I actually sit here and just try to play my rewrite of Warcraft? You know, that would be a fun thing to do. To just play the game would be, you know, sort of enjoy my handiwork. It seems like something I should be allowed to do. But, you know, from the moment I start, I don't have an entangled gold mine. I had to click entangle, and then the icons for the wisps are in the wrong. They're on the wrong place. They're not centered. The entangled gold mine, that's wrong. I build some units there. When I right-click a tree, it doesn't flash yellow like it's supposed to. You know, that's wrong. Everything is just actually wrong, which is kind of interesting. But you know, as the comedian Sam Hyde once said, the future of actually I forget exactly how he said this, but something like public opinion and shit posting are now permanently intertwined, and there's nothing anyone can do about that. It's not going to change. And it's great. It's great. I think that me telling the world that I rewrote the entirety of Warcraft III is similar to that, actually. It's really similar. It's kind of fun. You notice there's these huge lag spikes whenever I'm building a building. I don't know or remember why that is. It might be, you know, I changed some of my computer hardware today. Maybe that's a hardware thing. I'm reading off of a spinning disk drive, making it all too slow. But, you know, at least we have auto-cast replenish in life showing a mana bar on my Demon Hunter. That's kind of fun. Demon Hunter can learn immolation. You know, immolation probably works. That's kind of fun. Can make a little military here. So, you know, sometimes it's kind of fun to just think about, this thing almost works. You know, it really almost works. It's like, it really is a rewrite of Warcraft 3. It's really not the original thing. You can see my mini-map is messed up. Some of the players, like my enemies, are getting revealed for not having a base or something, even though we all have a base. And the reveal timer's under the map for some reason, some kind of layering. Obviously, that's supposed to be in the upper right-hand corner. I don't know why that is. Didn't bother to look it up. You can see my units here they don't have formation rank, and they're not going to. There's no formation rank icon on the mini-map because I'm just using A-star algorithm off of Wikipedia so that when I right-click, my units just run wherever I tell them to go. But, you know, man, it almost looks like Warcraft 3. You know, almost. Wow. I've just been working on that for like 5 years. Almost looks like Warcraft 3. And you know what happened over the last December holidays? There were some great holidays. I don't know if this was intentional, but look at that. My units don't even auto-attack. Do I auto-attack if I run over here? Oh, yeah, I do. We just have a really, really short auto-attack range. Okay. All right. Come on, guys. Yes, that was obviously a really, really short auto-attack range. Apparently evasion isn't loading in, which is interesting because evasion actually is. There is a version of evasion in War Smash, but it has the problem that I think I turned it off. It was made by a different author, and it was made in JSON, and I was trying to see if I could change the JSON to JAS last year and doing all that stuff. But hey, you know, I actually made tomes make the fun tome sound when I pick them up, so that's kind of cool. And Mana Burn works, which is, you know, that took me a long time to program because Mana Burn actually uses lightning effect, as I believe. So, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I must target a unit with mana. I can't target my own units. I guess Sea Giants don't have mana. Who knew? Okay, so can't do that. This Sea Giant is swimming in the ground. Is he even going to fight me? I don't even think he's going to fight me. Let's get this Ring of Protection. Maybe it'll save my life from that one. Ooh. This one also has no mana. Alright. We got him. Kind of thought my guy was going to die here. Okay. I'm the Night Elves. I need to head back to base. Get some more mana. Now, you know, one of the other things I thought was really interesting. I was on YouTube and I was watching Grubby. He was making fun of somebody playing Warcraft 3 really really badly here recently. Now, of course, because I rewrote Warcraft 3, I didn't program control groups. Someone would tell me, oh, you should control group this archer so you could jump back to it. But, I'm jumping by clicking the portrait, because if I hit Control 1 on the keyboard, it doesn't do anything. No one programmed that, because all we're doing is running a rendering program I wrote that looks as if it's the game. Isn't that interesting? But it does look like it. It's like a Pixar movie. It's like, whoa, look at that. I rendered a Pixar movie of me playing a game of Warcraft. I almost played a game of Warcraft 3. Man, look at that. Almost. Yeah. I was just like not doing the tech tree stuff correctly. I have 200 gold. I'm just walking around and talking. And you know why I'm getting away with walking around and talking right now? It's because I didn't finish programming the AI scripts. I started on that a little bit. You can go and look and let me see here. So if I go to this stuff in the editor, I think it's on a different branch of the code that I had the AI script. But conceptually, one of the things that was really a holdup was if you look at the JAS parser, I think one of the really recent versions of this, I was trying to move around where I put things. I was able to get start thread and sleep, two really important functions, to be able to have multiple JAS threads, which aren't really processor threads. They're an invented concept for this game. And have two of those going at the same time and suspend, and be able to use that. And maybe that'll let me have an AI script, so I could actually sit here in my evening and play the game against an opponent. We're almost there. We're almost there. I also don't really know. I don't know about my sound balance when I record a video like this, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if you couldn't hear me talking while I'm fighting. So anyway, if that's the case, and if you can't hear me talking while I'm fighting, then obviously what I was trying to say is that almost I can have the AI script, but I don't yet. But if I ever do, if I get that fixed, then you can imagine I could sit down in the evening and play a map like I'm playing right now, but actually have a meaningful opponent. I'm pretty sure right now, if we go to my enemy's base, I could probably kill them with this hero and 3 archers, even though if you were fighting Grubby right now, he'd probably have a tier 3 base and an army of 20 Taurens, attacking me, taking me out right now, right here, right now. I don't even care about that. But anyway, so that's all, fine. We could try to get some of these, get a Huntress Hall here. I think it's also kind of funny that these can't right-click a tree that already has a wisp on it and figure themselves out. Even though you can see I have a little algorithm I put in for one that you run at a tree that's already used and it runs to a different tree. Sometimes, maybe. So, you work on this for like 5 years or something. And one of the things I realized after I started on this project is there really is, I don't know, I think it's a lot of people on the internet have accused me of conspiracy theories. I used to tell everyone that AI was pretty smart 5 or 6 years ago, and everybody said that was wrong. AI isn't smart. It can't do anything. It doesn't even really exist. Now we all have ChatGPT. But one of the things I think is, it seems to me within the realm of possibility. If you look at, Demis Hassabis and like these people that, 7 or 8 years ago or something had figured out how to make an AI play chess without telling it how to play chess, just the rules, and it just learns the game from that. It seems conceivable to me that social media is sort of like an AI playing chess against planet Earth, and it wins when no one does anything cool or has any fun. So because of that, at some point, when I'm working on War Smash and this sort of thing, it sort of feels to me, and this is a conspiracy theory for you, so you don't actually want to probably believe this, but it seems to me that once I started on this project and thought to myself, hey, why don't I rewrite Warcraft so I can just, have my own version that's going to work no matter what they do with Reforged or anything like that. Right about the time I started doing that, it seemed like it got harder to hang around in my evening and screw around, talk to the internet. Because there's a lot to do, and I started doing different things and not doing that, and not making YouTube videos. So now all the YouTube videos that I make are literally all AI-generated slop, and that's because, most of the time I'm in a situation where I'm not going to talk to the computer, so, it's not going to be me, it's going to be AI-generated slop. So that's kind of fun, but, can we get one of these guys with this? No, we can't. Alright. What about that Scroll of the Beast? That could be fun. Maybe next creep camp, not this one. So yeah, all my YouTube videos are pretty much all AI generated slop now, because most of the time, if I have a computer but I don't have a mic or something like that, you know, it's always on the move. I'm always going somewhere. We don't know where I'm going. I don't know why I'm going there, but I'm always going somewhere. So then I don't have a mic. So then I don't make YouTube videos. Something like that. It's probably all part of an evil plan. Try to stop me from focusing. Focusing is fascinating. You know, I think it was the ancient Japanese samurai lords who invented the art of origami. So they would sit and focus and fold paper because somebody said that you know, focusing was the greatest skill on earth or something like that. They're probably all dead now. I think we nuked them, so maybe that's not true. But anyway, focusing is really great. That's great if you can focus on stuff. I used to focus on making this engine, but then I got the arrow to the knee problem, and now I can't even right-click across the map and get there because the pathfinding algorithm is so freaking bad. We just have to shift-click 16 times. This is more than 16 times. To see if my units can find their way across the map, because otherwise they don't know how to get there. But hey, it's a YouTube video where I'm going to pretend like I rewrote Warcraft. Alright, so let's see. One of these guys has mana, right? Oh yeah, look at that. So that lightning bolt, that took some time and effort to make. Here, let me use this scroll to beast. Oh, I don't have scroll to beast actually. Okay. So I would have had scroll to beast. One of the GitHub contributors made that work, but I broke it because I had some of the abilities turned off, which means I need to run away right now actually. Except if I right-click in my base to run away, I won't go there. I'll just die, I guess. Okay. Well, that kind of sucks. Yeah. No reason killing my archers here. All right. Should have not run to my base. I should have run to the healing fountain. The Pathfind would probably be smart enough to figure that one out. Here you go. Look at that. You know, I upgraded my Tree of Ages and its hands aren't blue. You know, that's because Tree of Life upgrade ability isn't programmed into the game. Whose fault is that, you know? But you'd have to have attachment points, and then the attachment points have to set the attachment point art effect, which is fine. There's a lot of things that do that, but then the artifact has to have animation names based on the building. It's just, you know, there's a lot of hoopla to do that one. Alright, let's just like run over here. They should probably run back here. That archer's a goner. Okay, I'll do some of my upgrades. You know, I do have upgrades, but if you mouse over them, I don't have upgrade tooltips. You know, I can't read what they do. There's so many things that need to get done. And it's been, you know, most of these things have been broken for like a year and I didn't fix them. Even though a lot of them would take 10 minutes to fix. And if that's, you know, if you think about that, you'll understand what's actually going on here. Which is that I'm not all the time being productive. But hey, let's get over here and mana burn this guy. It's more fun that way. Look at that green bolt. You know the time I spent making that green bolt? I mean, I think that's pretty fun. Let's get him again. Look at that. 100. Alright, now I have Scourge Bone Chimes, which actually, I'm kind of surprised the Scourge Bone Chimes work, because that's telling me that whatever I thought was going on with the JSON abilities not working, the problem is more complex than I thought. Because Scourge Bone Chimes is a JSON ability, so I must be operating off of an out-of-date JSON definition or something like that. That's interesting. Anyway, what do we got? We got Tree of Eternity over here. Should be building some buildings. Yeah, build one of those. Build one of these. Honestly, let's build an Ancient Protector for next time I aggro creeps like that. And then you think, why do I need an Ancient Protector if I have no enemies? But because the creeps aggro indefinitely, that stuff could be pretty useful. Alright, Sentinel. We don't have Sentinel, that's a joke. Don't do that. Alright, other heroes. Wardens are fun, but I don't have any food because I didn't build any of these things. So let's build some of those things. Alright, you know, while my Wisp is in a building, I can't see his command card and tell him to build. And that's because of the multiple authors problem. We had I merged a bunch of code from one of the GitHub contributors without reading it, which it was really awesome code. It added a bunch of features. But one of the other things they did is they tried to upgrade the definition of pause versus stun. And I had been using pause to mean that we stopped a unit's periodic timer of doing things. As they, you know, are they moving? Are they standing? Are they casting? What are they doing? There's a periodic function in there built into every unit of what it's doing. And I defined pause to mean shutting it off. Obviously, the Warcraft 3 definition of pause is more complicated than that. It shuts off their periodic timer of what they're doing, and it also hides their command card. So because of that, the Java code is calling the pause function here, but the pause function was amended to mean the JAS version of that, which wasn't what I meant when I wrote that, and I wasn't the person who changed it. It's really interesting how that goes. You know, it's sort of like the problem with Warcraft Reforged is when people don't talk to each other and work together. So anyway, here I am going along, pretending to claim that I rewrote all of Warcraft 3, and yet, you know, what's really happening is every human being is a creature of habit. They're also very social creatures, and so if you claim that you rewrote Warcraft 3, it's probably not true, because there's probably multiple human beings involved in whatever happened. You know, this concept of a scene here with a camera that can tilt. I used the camera concept from the Hive Workshop's model viewer that can view Warcraft models. So really all I kind of wrote are game rules, you know, of, oh, how does this dryad move? You know, I used the code that does the, what do you call it? Ray test, ray intersect. Actually, no, ray test is when we're selecting units. But there's like a ray intersect that I do coming down from the sky, and just use like a mesh intersector to figure out, you know, obviously the Z height of this unit is actually physically depending on these sort of geometric stair objects. And, you know, one of the things that I do is when the dryad animates and you see her like jumping along like that, the concept of an animated unit is doing GPU skinning. So we upload to the GPU where in the animation frame we are, and we upload to the GPU the matrices for the bones of the dryad, but I'm not actually uploading every single geometric part of the dryad. Instead, the vertex shader is determining where to put it based on the animation, which, you know, that's great for performance, so we can have our whole military walking and they all look fine. But what that means is that if you have something like an elevator, which, you know, takes the concept of this little tiny Naga walk path here and extends that to an actual moving elevator object, that doesn't work at all in my code, because I don't support standing on an object that's animated, because the animation code that figures out where to put the geometry only exists as a GPU shader and doesn't exist in Java. So you have all these fascinating problems when you try to rewrite Warcraft 3 like this, and it does give rise to last December, you know, this past December 2024, there's the new people from, I don't know, Brad Chan or whatever, and they're working on Reforged, and they slip up and they publish all the debug symbols, and along with making it really abundantly clear to anybody who's really into Warcraft 3 that better and more interesting systems existed for debugging custom games that only existed in-house and were never published, meaning that in a certain kind of way, the lack of sharing between Activision Blizzard over the last 5 years in Reforged and the sort of modding community making really interesting and custom things is kind of a tragedy once you can actually see it, once the things in the office leak out and you realize they have all these tools that they refuse to ever let anyone use. On top of that tragedy, there's this other problem that once Brad Chan's team leaked a debug build, you know, a month or so ago, I was looking at that crap and I was thinking to myself, you know, this idea, spending 5 years rewriting the game, you know, that's fun. You know, you look at whatever I'm doing right now, it's so... I'm going to do some combat for a moment here, get some combat audio. I don't know, the sound might be really loud. There we go. It's so almost... You know, you look at this video right here, and it's so almost Warcraft 3. You know what it's almost. Look at that. I have a ringer protection +3. I give it to him. Now he has +5, and then because he has a 2 and a 3. And you know what else? Actually, I can click through these. You couldn't do that on Warcraft 3. Right click, left click, and I click through the item to the ground behind it. You know, and he's going to drop it right there. That doesn't make any sense. But right click works. Why is that? You know, on Warcraft 3, right click, left click is the same as right click. Whose fault is that? Mine, because I made my own inventory system. But I have this nice select user button, which, you know, it incorrectly shows a tall tooltip span, but it functions. We can go to this character and get the Staff of Teleportation and Periaptive Vitality to get more powerful. And Staff of Teleportation not working is actually quite sad, in my opinion. There are some versions of War Smash where the staff of teleportation was working. I think what might have broken it is the JAS abilities I was playing with again. So I'm in a build right now where a bunch of the abilities aren't working. But anyway, some things are working. You know, I would imagine you get something like Scroll Protection, that's not going to work. But Potion of Invisibility probably won't work either. You can sell it back, you know, get half your money back. That's kind of fun. Most of the stuff, to be honest, won't work. Like Dust of Appearance doesn't work because each one has a unique ability software. There's an independent piece of code for each one. And, you know, if you're writing a Warcraft 3, you can't just write an interpreter for that software. We don't have that software. You know, what does Dust of Appearance actually do? You know, it might be that if you play the StarCraft 2 remake of Warcraft 3, which I haven't looked into in very much depth, maybe they use the unit editor to define the function of every single item, and you could just pull that one or something. But I didn't do that. I'm operating off of the original Warcraft 3 because, frankly, I find that to be a better pathway to trying to support custom maps, again, for this idea that I'd like to have a version of the game I can update and support, you know, in the inevitable day, whether that's 2 years or 1 year or 3 months, when Brad Chan and all of his team run for the hills and decide that they don't want to deal with supporting this technology anymore. They just, you know, made some good profit off of whatever they were doing. They made friends with Grubby, and now it's time for them to go build another game and advance their career and whatever, you know. That's not what I'm doing on War Smash. I'm not advancing my career. A lot of people, from the moment I told them I would really like to make an open source rewrite of Warcraft 3, they told me that's a bad idea. And they were right that that's a bad idea because relative to any objective that anyone would ever sit and think about, it's a pretty bad idea. But in my habit systems at the time and some of the things I've interacted with, I have found that over 20 years, I have, in many instances, enjoyed coming back to Warcraft 3 and wanting that it would work. You know, even if that's on occasion, even if you take a break from that for 3 or 5 years, you know, it would be nice when you come back if it still works. And what does that require? Because to get that, to have that still working, some people, they're just okay with Reforged, you know, they're like, okay, we're just going to play Reforged, and what's today's version? Oh, today's version, it looks like unit portraits don't work. Okay, too bad, don't worry about that, you know, just, you don't need unit portraits. What's the point of a talking face anyway? It's just some flair thing, you don't need that. You know, and you just kind of go with the flow of whatever's broken today. You know, or like, look at that, in my version right there, until I started fighting these sea giants, they were swimming in the dirt. Okay, and that's really bad, you know. Until I started fighting these sea giants, the sea giants were swimming in the dirt. Why are they swimming in the dirt? You know, that's the kind of thing you'd see on Reforged too. Some random thing that's broken, and you think to yourself, why is that broken? That's so stupid. That it doesn't take a rocket scientist to think that a sea giant shouldn't be playing his swim animation unless he's in the water. Otherwise, he shouldn't be swimming in the dirt. You know, that's not really genius to fix that. That's just stupid. And it's just dumb obvious. And so it's really easy to get frustrated at the technology. It's really easy to get frustrated at Reforged. Of course, I'm not playing Reforged right now. I'm playing a Java game that I wrote. But there are a lot of technological similarities between these two systems. All right, I'm going to take a second. Again, I'm not entirely sure if my combat might be so loud that nobody can hear what I'm saying. So I'm starting to think I should do, you know, combat and saying things independently. Let's have this Dryad pick up that. How cool is that? My Dryad can pick up the Manual of Health, and it doesn't do anything because they're unable to use items because she's a Dryad. But she can be like, you know, wanting to go and give that to him, and it'll just give him benefit. It's kind of cool, you know. Can blink over here, drop an item over there. That might make her run faster, I think. Oh yeah, definitely. That's a big speed boost. Okay, so it's maybe almost an unrealistic speed boost, but you know, it is what it is. How cool is that? Boots of speed makes you run faster. I'm pretty sure I didn't program that, so I think this is again a GitHub contributor who's provided us with the boots of speed, which is really cool. That's really awesome. You know, I was kind of demoralized the last year or two on this project, I'd say, and maybe I shouldn't say demoralized. It's always fun to come back to, but I just think that if you look at the amount that I was getting done in 2021 and the amount that I got done in 2023 or 4 or something, I would say there's a difference there. 2024, if I look back at things that I changed, I think it was all things nobody's going to see. Messing with the JAS engine, trying to implement enhancements to JAS to allow me to do like structs and interfaces, and just silly things that probably don't need to be there in an engine where you can't click formation rank or something. Obviously, priorities are a really interesting question. My priorities have been, whatever the heck I want. I just sit down and try to have a good time and run around. Maybe I'll just kill some creeps like I'm doing right now. I think the level of fun of this would obviously increase greatly once we have enemy AI, so I should probably get going on that. But it's just, I think it's fun sometimes to sit and reflect a little bit, and I almost never, when I make these videos of me running around and playing this quote-unquote rewrite of Warcraft, seems like I'm almost never actually talking over it. I'm not at a point where I give myself a microphone. So how cool is that to give myself a microphone? But I think that the way the world is going, it's going to probably happen even less and less that I would get a microphone. I think that the social factor, the fabric of society, for some reason, is creating situations where that doesn't happen. It's almost like, we have everyone's attention, everyone's focus is all totally for sale, and they're trying to make a future where I'm not the person talking in the digital room, and maybe that's that's up to other people whether that happens. So I really probably shouldn't complain about that, but at least in my own digital space, I ought to let myself talk, right? I think that makes sense. Sentry wards doesn't work. I know already. And how hard is that to program? Not at all. What does sentry wards do? You click it and you click the ground and it makes a freaking unit. That would take like 5 minutes, but I didn't do it. How about that? It takes 5 minutes, but I didn't do it. Let's get a hippogriff rider. That would be fun. We could scout our enemies. All this time I was talking, I never showed you guys what's going on with the enemy AI, but I think you know what to expect when we talk about those enemy AIs. Let's attack move up here. And so I think attack move works. That ought to probably work. Obviously, some of my units are running horrible circles around over there trying to figure out where to go, but she has boots of speed. She can go scout. Look at that. And you can see that they're undead through the darkness because the spell effect for the undead circle there shows up through fog. Even though the neutral building itself of the gold mine doesn't show through fog, the undead artifact doesn't. So then you think to yourself, you could actually check if these other players are undead just by clicking in the darkness. Not to mention the fact that the darkness is solid black, which isn't really how maps are supposed to work on Warcraft 3. They're supposed to decide that the darkness is either partially black or solid black based on a map flag setting, which I didn't bother reading because I didn't care. I was just making fun on YouTube. Just doing my thing, just trying to feel good about myself for the fun of rewriting Warcraft. Even though there's a lot of stuff in Warcraft 3. There's a lot of code, and my supposed rewrite is not that good. And it also is displaying this text, you'll be revealed unless you build a tree of life. And you think, why is it displaying that? I got my tree of eternity right here. I don't even know if it's actually trying to reveal me, or it might just be it's revealing the enemy player who I just destroyed, and it's not properly distinguishing between players. Also, apparently I broke Mount Hippogriff, which is kind of sad. Yeah, we need more Moonwells. Then you have this thing. So one of the things I merged, I think it was the GitHub contributor, but it might have been me, made some kind of change where when spell effect dies, it'll play its death animation twice instead of once as it disappears. Even something like Blink. Okay, so Blink was only once, so it's not always reliable. But in some instances, you'll see we could use an ability and we'll play the animation twice instead of once. It's also kind of funny that the units can group up so close that once they start moving again, they actually warp out from each other. And you would think that shouldn't be possible, but there they go, jumping around. And it's funny because I don't think that's extremely different from Warcraft 3. I think some of the things I'm doing are conceptually similar, but the underlying philosophy here has been, this is not a game. This is not a game that is made by looking at how Warcraft 3 is made. I didn't go and try to disassemble Warcraft 3 and actually understand how that was made. All I did is I looked at the world editor and I looked at the units and I thought, how would I do this? Why don't I do it my way? Most of, there's like an old blog post somebody posted about Warcraft 3 where they said, they were trying to make this other game and then I think the guy that made Guild Wars like quit the company to go make Guild Wars, and then they pivoted halfway through and said, oh, okay, instead of making a game like Diablo, let's make a game like Warcraft 2 or something. And they kind of stapled it all together. And so in a lot of ways, Warcraft 3 was taking a render engine that was really solid for rendering 3D characters at the time, in 2001 or something, that had been made originally for, a hero mission game, and applying that rendering engine to, an RTS like StarCraft. And so that's kind of where I think there's tremendous overlap in the technology of Warcraft 3 and how that came to be, and in my ridiculous imitation that I'm running here in Java, because I actually used the model viewer from the Hive workshop that somebody had spent, I think, like 7 years trying to make it render similarly to Warcraft 3 to preview the characters for like editing them on Hive workshop and creating mods and sharing files with each other. And I thought, oh, that's cool. Why don't I use that same code and make a game, like which led to what we see here. And yet, in my time doing that, the premise of trying to make a game off of that render engine meant that I was writing the unit logic. I was writing, what happens if I activate immolation? What is immolation? What is an ability? What does the move icon do? What does the patrol icon do? And trying to make those things as concepts in a world where you can just call up any unit in any XYZ that you want in a 3D space. And it's kind of fascinating because, to be honest, there are some people who make Warcraft 3 maps who would probably rather to make a video game, and if you actually gave them the technology that I started from in 2019 that was basically copied off of someone else's 7 years of work, where you can just call up Warcraft 3, map terrain shape and not any additional complexity, and then anywhere in that terrain shape at any arbitrary XYZ, spawn up the model of a unit and tell it to play any animation you want. That foundation for building a game is actually probably what a large number of people who think that it would be really cool to make World of Warcraft or make some other ridiculous thing inside of Warcraft 3 wish that they had. It would be better for them and more interesting probably than trying to start from an RTS game and unravel it back into those things. So I feel like that's one of the fundamental bizarrities of what I'm doing, that, in some ways a person might actually say, I started from something beautiful and made it disgusting or something like that. And, there are all kinds of opinions that you could have on that. But ultimately, I think that for me, my motivations come out of having groups of people where I would make stuff on Warcraft 3 and try to, polish custom mods, create a custom tech tree and make that better and better and better. And at some point, it's evident that the thing holding me back is the engine instability of, it was great when it didn't change for years and years, but the actual code is difficult to manage, and there's a lot of turnover at Activision, and so you have this turnover of new people and new people and new people, and they don't even know, like if you ask them to code from nothing, walking up and down a geometric bridge thing like this, they could probably figure it out, but could they figure it out in a way that's performant? Would it lag? Do they understand how that works? Do they understand why the paws of this character leave little paw geometries behind? My paw geometries like that are actually copied off the guy who was doing model rendering on the Hive workshop. And it's something like, depending on which unit you select, the little paws will turn bright or dark at night and change whether they apply light data or something, because I hacked a light into his engine that he didn't originally have. And there's just, there's all these little things you can do wrong in a system like, look at this, I'll bet the little feet there, all these units, they're leaving behind footprints. In the actual Warcraft 3, on a stone like this this sort of sunken ruin stone texture here, a unit wouldn't leave footprints. So the actual Warcraft 3 game, the unit, every footstep is doing a map terrain lookup to say, is this grass? We'll leave a footstep on a grass. Is this stone? Then we will not. Because that doesn't make any sense. Like, we're leaving imprints in the stone just from walking over it with a cat. And the original team of 50 people who made Warcraft 3, they understood that, and they prevented that, right? And I'm just running some silly model previewer in a loop while the X and Y coordinate of the unit translate over the ground. And so I'm just spawning the little footprints even if I'm on the stone. There's just all these little things. You could spend an entire lifetime making lists of little things and trying to fix them. And so it's fascinating. I mean, obviously I had a really great time making this. This is a fascinating project. Anybody who has nothing to do for 5 years on the weekends, sure, make your own Warcraft 3. I think that's a great idea. But you're not going to make any money. Don't do that for money. That'd be extremely stupid to think you were going to make money off of doing that. There's the zero that, that's not going to happen. And also, I think you're probably not going to have a large player base. I don't really foresee a lot of people downloading this and playing it. Maybe if Reforged actually capsized and shut down, it's conceivable that someone could spend if they had no job and they were just really dedicated and they worked for 6 months on this engine and they just tweaked everything. Maybe you could get to a point where you could eclipse Reforged for features and you wouldn't need to ever touch that anymore. And all of Reforged gamers would just stop and they would just go and play somebody else's engine. But that's not going to happen right now with Brad Chan over there, keeping it going, right? There is zero chance of that happening. There are people, they're going to be playing Reforged and they're going to say, why does my cat leave footprints on the stone? That doesn't make sense. That didn't happen in Classic. That's unacceptable. And the worst part is, if you sit here and, having reinvented the technology from a basic model renderer to try to render the entire game world, if you sit there and isolate in your mind every single bug that you can think of and rebuild the game from the ground up, you're doing this Herculean task of reinventing something that was made by 50 people as their passion, life's work, employment in 2002, and that takes a long time. So anyway, with all of that said, when Brad Chan's team screwed up and they published the debug symbols of Warcraft III, and it's actually interesting to wonder if they screwed up. So, I want to say like a week or two before they published all the debug symbols on accident and weird update to the game on Battle.net. It was within a week or two before that. I made some really silly comments on the Warcraft 3 forums, and I went on there and was like, I've been modding this game for 20 years, and what does ownership really mean? Maybe I own the game more than you because I was just trying to rewrite it in another language, but mine has problems because I don't have all the abilities. My Scroll of the Beast doesn't work or something. Now, to be honest, we could get Scroll of the Beast to work if I merged the code from those GitHub contributors on this computer, but just in concept, there's all these abilities. And I was saying, if you guys could just give me the code of the abilities so I could put them on my render engine so I had perfect gameplay logic, but with a system that I can, donk around with, that would be really cool. That would sort of expand my horizons, when I do something funny like make 9-slot inventory or push escape to play WoW mode and run around as a WoW unit amidst all the armies, or these types of things. These fun mods, these creative enterprises, those would be much easier, if I was starting from the actual game instead of starting from nothing, right? You look at a 2020 team that made Reforged, they just hacked the code of the Frozen Throne and dumped a bunch of stuff on top of it. And of course now anybody who wants to play the Frozen Throne or make a custom map, has to put up with that code, making what they're doing more complicated. Obviously, for me, I think that was a part of what I felt like I was running away with when I started on this project. But because I think there is, some people talk about elegant simplicity, right? So on Reforged, if you look at the code that Brad Chan's team has to try to maintain for parsing models, there's 2 different render display modes, and each mode is supposed to be able to support 3 different asset formats of MDX 800, 1000, and 1100, because as the game evolved, they kept, changing the model format, but then fans would be like, well, I made a map with a model, but why doesn't my model load? So they had to make the new engine load the old format models, and just all this stuff. I can just say, screw all of that, and I'm just going to load MDX 800 models, like the old format from, the Frozen Throne back in the day, and that's going to mean that the code that I have to look at is simpler and faster to maintain. Now, in reality, if you go and look at the code on my GitHub right now, I have the same stupid double asset format 3 mode parsing because now and again I've screwed around with videos where I would be playing a scene like this, rendering with OpenGL, and I would just want to suddenly throw a Reforged unit into it with a Reforged model, not a port, but the direct asset of the actual Reforged model. So obviously, my code has been tainted by what to me was originally a joke, and then I merged it back to the main thing so I wouldn't have to think about it, because I was using the code as a user rather than as some sort of education, because I just basically was using it to play a single player and make YouTube videos about it and mess around and have some fun. But it's all crazy. And so anyway, I made this ridiculous post on the forums, and I was like, could you guys just post the code of Warcraft 3? It's a silly post, right? I mean, I don't expect them to read that and respect me. But anyway, I was like, yeah, so, what is ownership? Maybe I own Warcraft 3 more than you because I liked it so much I rewrote it all from nothing. And you didn't do that. You're the new hire. Anyway, so then after I made that post, like a couple weeks later, by accident, these guys published the debug symbols of the entire game on the internet just in time for Christmas. So when I had Christmas break, I didn't really make any YouTube videos talking about this, but to be honest, I was really curious because I thought to myself, I've been working on this for like 5 years and weekends, and there have been huge amounts of time where I didn't work on it, or where GitHub contributors worked on it more than I did, right? So when I say I was working on it for 5 years, that's working is a loose term at that point. It's been very much a hobby, just having some fun, and sometimes months and months would go by where I didn't do anything. But there's something in front of me. If we look at this program in front of me, there is something here, and it's not exactly the original Warcraft 3. Look at that. I hit Control B, and actually I think it might not have captured for you guys, but if I hit Control B, it'll like lock and unlock the mouse. There's like weird functions that Warcraft 3 doesn't have. If I Alt Enter, I just full screen the game. I don't know if that might have killed the recording for you guys, but I think that if I squash the game, this is a funny thing. Warcraft 3 doesn't do this. Yeah, okay, so you guys are capturing the wrong window. It jumped to some other thing over there. I'm not quite sure how long that's going to be broken for you, but here we go. Okay, look, this is what I was talking about. So, now my game is like tall and the UI is busted. And that's really weird. Warcraft 3 doesn't do that. If you can't, I don't think you can even change Warcraft 3 to have a nonsensical vertical scale. I think it enforces the scale the right way or something. So like, obviously, like, it looks okay, maybe widescreen, but like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is just that this is a weird, different piece of code, and it really is something different. And I think a lot of people, they probably don't see that. It doesn't seem like something different. It seems like it's the same, because that's the easiest solution for our mind before we get to the weird, uncanny valley, and we realize that all sorts of things are, I right-click in my units, I'll just run to that one point in a big mass and then get confused and run in circles and then auto-attack this thing, and then once I've auto-attacked this thing, it has no leash range and runs indefinitely, and, it's just simply the result of programming that, and then run away on my warden, and I think to myself, oh, you know what, how about I blink away from this thing that's chasing me, and I blink off the map or some nonsense, and somehow that's allowed instead of telling me that that's outside of line of sight. And then when this guy attacks me, I should, auto-attack him back, but I'm not doing that because I'm running senselessly at a point I can't reach because my whole army is here, so I have to click stop first before I auto-attack him back. Just weird stuff that doesn't make sense. And the weird stuff doesn't make sense because it's not Warcraft 3, it's another set of people's ideas about how you'd think the same thing would go. It's the only of its kind I've really seen on the internet of someone who's like, why don't we just make a Warcraft 3? What would that look like for fun? There's a lot of people in the world. They got a lot of different things to do, and I don't know of anybody else who did, in particular, this. But all of that being said, the result then, and Brad Chan's team or whatever, these guys working at Microsoft, they publish the leaked debug symbols, and I'll be honest with you, maybe this is evil, maybe it's me not being a good person, but I looked at it and thought there's two worlds, I think. And I talked to one of the GitHub contributors. They disagreed with me on this. They said that maybe what I should do is use the leaked stuff to try to look in their code and upgrade one or two small things on War Smash that don't match. But to be totally honest, I'm about at a point where this grand experiment of building something that is almost Warcraft 3 but isn't quite would be going a lot better for me if it was literally exactly the same to start from. If I could do my own Reforged, if I could start from what the Reforged team had, like that code and all of its bells and whistles from 2016, and go in my own direction from that, I don't expect that any other human beings would play my creation or would play my direction. It's not for other people, you know, this is like for my personal satisfaction is what I wish I would do. Start from that, go in my own direction, and maybe try to show the world, even though I don't think people would actually pick it up very much, that, you know, if you had the code, if you could be the decision maker instead of Bobby Kotick, instead of whoever was the decision maker in 2020, and you could make different decisions that you can't make now. Brad Chan can't, he can't renege certain things on Reforged. He's stuck in a rut. There's years, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars of software engineers who have turned the Frozen Throne into the Reforged, and it can't go back, and he can't undo that, and he can't get out of 3 different asset modes split into 2 different ways with 2 different gameplay modes of Lua and Jas emulation for what's happening. Like, sometimes simplicity is elegant, right? And so if I could, you know, if you imagine a human being who has the Frozen Throne source code to the extent that my words even have a meaning for a technologist, that they would understand that I'm talking about the game as it existed in 2016, not the Reforged, not the free upgrade of the games that existed in 2016 running on the Reforged engine that purports to be the original, but like really the original. And if you had that, but you had the source code of that C++ files, the actual ability to do anything you wanted in a reasonable amount of time, to read it, understand it, and change it. And of course, again, no one has that other than maybe someone in Blizzard, and Blizzard would probably delete it if they didn't already. I don't think they respect it. I doubt they respect it. One of their employees said, he said it on the, I think it was the BlizzCon 2018 stage, he said, you know, wow, when I first looked at the Warcraft 3 code after working on World of Warcraft for years, I suddenly understood how World of Warcraft came to be, because the render code was the same thing except simpler. You know, they forked off of the same thing. Then promptly he proceeded to copy code from World of Warcraft, dump it into Warcraft 3, and call it Reforged. And now everyone has to deal with that. That's the only Warcraft 3 left in their office, right? And probably, I don't know. Because, of course, it purports to have the ability to switch modes between the old one and the new one. So why do you need the old one? I don't know. Are they saving the old one in their office? Maybe not. You know, maybe they've destroyed it. It's like people telling stories about the Romans inventing aqueducts and then, you know, promptly forgetting how to build them. So in my mind, if we talk about elegant simplicity, and we talk about the idea that there was a time on Earth, and maybe we're past that time, maybe it's gone, but there was a time on Earth where the Frozen Throne game as a technology actually existed. And if you imagine allowing some guy like me or multiple people, fans of this technology, to start from that as a basis, not Reforged, not complicated, but just the Frozen Throne, and see, you know, what direction do they go? What Reforged do they create? I feel like that would be a really interesting question to ask Planet Earth. I feel like there might be some answers there that would be even better games than the Reforged, and better games than you're going to get if you try to take the Reforged as it exists now, declare, oh, that's the only one true version of Warcraft 3, and then try to add on to it, evolve it in some other direction, little by little. Because somebody doing that, you know, they're going to be constrained within those modern systems and mannerisms. You know, the menu has to be a web page. Well, why does the menu have to be a web page? You know, well, the menu has to be a web page because nobody knows how the game works, so you couldn't edit the old menu. Okay, well, what if I do know how the old game works? What if I do know how the old menu works? You know, that's my question. What if I do? And they say, well, you know, that's really inefficient. You can't make menus the old way because it's never going to be efficient. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. You know, Warcraft 3 is wrong, and it uses property maps. It parses all of its units from property maps. And to be honest, modern software developers will teach you that everything should be unit tested, and it should all be locked behind compile time checking, perfect code, perfect unit tests. Anytime you change any piece of software, you'll immediately know it's broken. You can't introduce any bugs ever. Modern software is a genius. And surely whoever looks at that code, you know, maybe they'll reduce the number of property maps and increase the amount of compile time checking in the code, because that is you know, the holy light's gift to programming, and what a good idea. We'll do that. We'll make it all better, and that's the Reforged. And of course, because of that, the Reforged has never had any bugs because it was made with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and really bright software engineers who were well trained by our modern society to understand right and wrong. So of course they would do all of those things right. They would try to minimize the amount of Warcraft 3ism in the code. And you think about that happening, you think about Reforged, and yeah, I don't know, I think that for all of those people that a big corporation would probably never respect, who likes the old Frozen Throne for some reason, who knows why, I don't really expect a corporation to know why, but yeah, for those kind of people, it does make you wonder, what would they make? You know, what would they make if you gave them the code of Frozen Throne as it was then? And we're held back because the fascinating part of this experiment that I have in front of me is that the render pipeline is only OpenGL. I don't support DirectX. This is a Java program. This is not Warcraft 3. And the audio, you know, if I click this guy, now it's in the right ear. Now it's in the left ear. Now I don't know if my recording this video is going to capture that really well, but you know, left ear, right ear. Who's doing that evaluation about the ear geometry? I pass that off to OpenAL. I'm using OpenAL, Open Audio Library, for the sound. Now I don't know if Warcraft 3 ever did that. They probably didn't. I think they use Fmod in the newer stuff, in the Reforged, when they, you know, more or less changed it all to new things. And the old one used Miles Emulated 3D. So both of those, I believe, Fmod and Miles Emulated 3D, probably have some form of a proprietary license, and you probably can't run them on anything on Earth. I think Fmod looked like maybe until you're a big game developer, until they detect that you have money, there might be a free version you could download. But Miles Emulated 3D, you know, if you wanted to compile that today, you'd probably have to spend, you know, the next week and a half figuring out how to buy it, and then spending thousands and thousands of dollars getting licensed. So you get back to this problem that it is a legitimate criticism that if Activision Blizzard actually were to publish the entire source code of the Frozen Throne from 2016 onto the internet today and said, hey, you know, go ham here, only licenses, remember that we own the game, or something like that, right? It wouldn't immediately work because the people trying to build it, trying to compile, would probably be very, very stuck. As opposed to this thing that we see in front of me. I've played this on my Raspberry Pi. I've played this on my phone, you know, because why not? OpenAL, OpenGL, Java, these are like extremely cross-platform technologies. You compile them on whatever you want. And sure, it lagged like atrociously on my Raspberry Pi. You know, you don't expect that to work very well. It's a little computer that's the size of your hand, a little single chip board, half the size of a phone. And you know, when I played it on my phone, actually I did have to change the shaders a little bit because I was running on a Samsung that had some issue, and later I tried to run it on a more like Linux phone type of thing. It didn't totally work. There's some work there I'd have to do because I used the wrong version of OpenGL. I used new stuff, and sometimes the open source enthusiasts, they're running on older drivers. But basically, you know, there are tons of interesting places that I've tried to compile and run this almost Warcraft 3, this, you know, my version of Warcraft 3, you might say. How would I imagine myself playing Warcraft 3? And again, these are the property maps that I am loading. The 3D models, the shapes that I am loading are the shapes of the original Warcraft 3 characters. I did not draw them. They are probably some sort of copyright or trademark. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't research that. And I don't sell this because of that. You know, this is not, I don't purport to own Warcraft 3. I don't own that. I presumably never will. But I think what I can say I do own is my bizarre and dysfunctional half-finished flavor of how to support that. So it's interesting for me to think, you know, when I see those debug symbols, and I think about what do I want in the world, and some GitHub contributor, you know, is telling me, well, why don't you use the debug symbols to learn a couple things and just improve your simulation? You know, I'm a human being. My lifespan is limited, and to be honest, I could picture something I don't have that I think maybe is what I wished I had all along, which is all of the functionality, the game behaviors of that 2016 version of the Frozen Throne as it existed then, but with those game behaviors layered on top of OpenGL and OpenAL, so I can compile them on all my computers and all my devices or whatever I want. to experience that. And to be honest, I also wish I had the same thing for the map editor. That's a whole other can of worms. How do you get maps into this thing? What kind of maps are we playing? How's that formatted in my universe? That's something you could talk about, but maybe I don't even want to get into that right now. So it's just interesting to think, what a thought, right? Wouldn't that be a nice thing to have? Open Warcraft 3, but the whole thing, not this my version. Like, on some level, I think that the reason I got here, probably the reason that there aren't a whole lot of other people who have been, they sit down and think to themselves, I'm gonna make my own Warcraft 3 and actually do it, is that a lot of people think that they need to use Warcraft 3 to make a Warcraft 3. You see this with like Warcraft 3 Community Edition on the Hive Workshop. They start from Warcraft 3, the game, and then they add a little bit of binary code they inject on top. They're like, well, the game's good, but I wanted these 5 things on top of it. And that's one thing that's one way you could go. That's one idea a person might have in the modding community. But that's not what I did, right? That's not what's in front of me. That's why you look at the map, my units are red instead of white. That's stupid. Why is that? Why are my units... Everyone knows on Warcraft 3 that the player units should be the color white, and the other units should have the team colors. You know why? Because when I was writing the minimap, I didn't bother to fix that. I just loaded up what's the player color of the unit, draw that color. Pretty straightforward. And that created this problem. So we're running on almost like a fascinating simulation cage concept of a network of my experiences, my description of Warcraft 3 as I thought it to be, and not the actual Warcraft 3, which is it's fascinating, it's fun to honk around with, it's fun to talk about, but it isn't Warcraft 3. And I think I'm beginning to wish that I had one that is, right? And so I suppose I've said that many times, perhaps I'm repeating myself, but that is the rationale why when the debug symbols dropped in December, I really looked at that and I thought to myself, maybe if the debug symbols could turn themselves into the original code, if I could just push a button, ask a ChatGPT, converse with an oracle, and the oracle would spawn from its own internal thought processes the actual Warcraft 3, not my version, not my conception of what I think that might be, but just the Warcraft 3. And if I had that on my computer, and then I could compile any sort of spin-off, do any sort of interesting thing with it if I wanted. Answer that age-old question, what kind of Reforged would I make if I could have been the decision maker in 2016? Where would I go? What would we do next? Can I move forward instead of moving backwards and running the tortoise and the hare race where I try to run from the past back to the present like I'm doing here, in the hopes that at some point the two graphs intersect and I surpass the present, which has obviously not yet happened. And so it's sort of seductive to want to mess around with those debug symbols. That was actually how I spent a large portion of my winter holidays, wishing that, wow, wouldn't that be nice if I had the debug symbols, would just spawn Warcraft out of that, and then I don't have to do this Java thing anymore. Maybe I'll just have a C++ program, compile that on my Raspberry Pi. It wouldn't actually lag. It would probably run perfectly because the old code was optimized by a team of 50 people who were going to do it right. And, I was very tempted by that. I don't have past experience doing reverse engineering, but I looked into it. And I tried to ask myself, can I do that? Can I just end up with a simple CMake project and a folder with a bunch of C++ files, and when I go in a terminal and run the CMake command that we build probably with GCC or CLang and spawn up actual Warcraft just out of the source code? You know how fascinating that would be? I mean, that would be really fascinating. Can you imagine the things that you could do with that? You could just honk around and add a Naga race, but actually do it. You go to the map editor and make it that the drop-down setting for regenerates hit points at night, or regenerates hit points at day, or regenerates hit points on blight. Those 3 things, you just add one, regenerates hit point on water. And then you could spend the next year goofing around in the world editor where you have a unit that regenerates hit point only on water. But it's not a trigger that you have to write. It's just a drop down in the map editor that's just easy. And you describe something like that, and Activision is never going to do that because it's a waste of their time. It's a waste of their freaking time. They don't need a polished Naga race. All they need is for Grubby to tell them, what new change to the game to make Tyler want to appreciate it better, so he plays this game for the next 6 months and gets the attention of 10,000 human beings watching him, because attention is the modern currency or something like that. And so they don't fundamentally need an ability to tell this little Murgull right here that he would only regenerate hit points on water. In fact, fundamentally, as a creep unit, it's substantial that his hit points are supposed to regenerate faster than other units anyway, and all the time, not during the night, not in water, so that by the means of that, the end result becomes that these various units like that work in the melee game, so that Grubby can continue to idolize and crystallize in his mind the perfected, sacred 4 races and the unending rule of the exact build orders of the 4 races, to show the sign of great skill of the memorizing of the sacred 4. And so, that's kind of the world we live in. And if you're just looking at profits, which it makes sense that like any company Activision is going to do, that's probably their incentive. There's not some kind of moonshot system of, why don't we make the dream of Warcraft III as it would have been if somebody else took a different direction in 2016 instead of Reforged. That question that no one's going to get probably to answer. Maybe it's not even a good, financially viable question to answer. At some point, the company's probably going to figure out the best thing they could do is just shut this game down and get everyone playing WoW, because WoW still costs a monthly fee. And at some point, the difference is otherwise kind of moot from the standpoint of a developer, and yet one of the 2 games generates constant revenue and the other does not. They're not going to change this game to a monthly fee because a bunch of nerds on the internet would complain, and then it would make them look bad. And honestly, maybe it wouldn't even make them look that bad. I kind of don't know why they don't just change this game to a monthly fee, but I'm just going to assume they're not going to have that idea because it won't occur to them. They wouldn't probably believe that people would actually pay it, because I guess they probably figure that the people playing this game aren't that dedicated. They don't want anything. They're just some kind of thing to profit off of. I don't know, actually. I don't know about that one. But what was my original point? So my original point is that when you talk about corporate universe and profits and all of that, you're not going to arrive at the same questions that people who want to sit down and say, what happens if I want to play this game for the next 20 years? Then what do I want? And different people want to do different things. To Grubby, Grubby would love this. Watch this. Do you know, when I programmed unit collision, I didn't really try, but in my head I thought, okay, so if you think about it, units are squares, so I programmed them as squares. And you want to see my squares at work? Look at my squares at work. Watch this. I am a square master. I programmed square units. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted. No, go back. I'm trying to click this guy. Okay, I programmed square units. And you know what square units means? It means that my demon hunter can't get out right now. Oh no, he's stuck in the square. Where's he gonna go? What's he gonna do? Square units have him trapped. Now, of course, in my system, he'll, I don't know, sometimes he was spazzing out a little bit more than you would expect out of Blizzard's system, but, he's in the square, he can't get out, there's nothing he can do. I wonder if you can actually teleport into the square. No, you can't. Okay. Yeah, he's in the square, he can't get out. And, somebody would be like, oh, that's cool, that's just like Warcraft 3, and it's really not. So I actually am using a quad tree for the way that the units are stored as these kind of rectangular objects inserted into a quad tree that seek against each other. I don't know if that's a good idea. I think Warcraft 3 is actually based on grids, so mine is probably just wrong. And, it's different. It's not better, it's just different. It's similar in a lot of ways. they're square units, so I can trap them in a square. Okay, but it's not the same. You can probably still trap him with the Dryad, even though the Dryad's smaller. I don't even think... Oh, he almost got out. Did you see that? He almost got out, but yeah, I trapped him with the Dryad. So, you can do that on my system. And I didn't do that really for Grubby. I feel like I did that because it just feels right. For if you played this game for 20 years, square units is the way to do it, because it's what it feels like. And yet you get back to where there's other people who say, no, why don't we have StarCraft II? When I run through this warden, the warden should just move out of the way automatically, and I'll just run past it. Sure. And, obviously, if you go on GitHub and you download my program code, you could just add that. It wouldn't probably be very hard. But I think I did actually do something similar to that once, where units just pushed other units. And it took like 20 minutes. It was not nearly as good as StarCraft II. It was actually kind of junk and weird. But it was fun, and that's kind of interesting to think about, that I was able to try that. You can't try that on Reforged. It'd probably be really hard, because you're stapling something onto the system in that idea, right? Excuse me. Whereas in my system, I just went in the fundamental code for a unit moving, and I just changed, like, if you're moving but an object obstructs you, instead of denying you the ability to keep moving, you just push the obstructed object away and keep moving. And you're not obstructed. And it was fun. It was interesting. They just kind of glide outward. Sure, okay. You could do something like that. But fundamentally, I think that being able to ask the question, what would other people make instead of Reforged, if they had the chance, the 2016 version of the code, to make their own Reforged. I feel like it's a fun question. I wish I could ask that. I'm not sure I ever will. But so there I was playing with the debug symbols, and I was trying to disassemble it. And I was thinking to myself, what couldn't I just get the original code? Couldn't I just suck the code out? I don't know if it was a mistake or if it was an intentional leak from the guys at Brad Chan's team or whatever, but that would be really cool. Just suck the code out, just get the original one, and then put it in a container of the container this one's in, and I can run it anywhere, run it on my Raspberry Pi, whatever I want, but have really good performance and have all the features instead of some of the features. And I looked at it, and I came to understand that the technology that we have publicly available for turning debug symbols, quote unquote, back into the original source code, it's just not very good. It's almost there. I think that if we get to a point where we have agent-based artificial intelligence interaction with our computers, so you can imagine when we get to that future where all software developers lose their job, there's no more human software development, everything is AI, and all computers just do what you tell them. You can sit down with your computer and say, write me a new Fortnite game. The computer's like, okay, and it makes you a new game like Fortnite in 10 or 12 seconds, automatically created by the computer. It downloads Unreal Engine and creates a new project and goes through all those steps that a human would have done back when human brains were valuable. But they just replace all of that with AI. When we get to that point, that you have agent-based interaction with your computer, and you just say what you want to do, and the computer does literally all of it. By that point, then you could sit there and you could say, "Hey, computer, actually, I want you to go through this debugger and step into," or maybe not debugger's not really the right word, but they're like decompilers or something. I'll decompile Warcraft III and actually make me my own from just a source code folder, so I can recompile it for fun whenever I want to as a developer. And maybe then you could go on and you could say some other things to your computer, like, well, actually, why don't you just decompile all of Windows and make a new operating system I can compile from source instead of Windows, because I don't like Microsoft. And why don't you delete out of that anything that does network requests, unless if I give it explicit approval or something to that program with some kind of permissioning. So by default we have a totally offline Windows, but then it goes online when I actually tell it to go online. You can imagine these extremely fascinating and extraordinary experiences you might have, when AI gets that smart. But right now, it isn't that smart. So, yeah, until that happens, it seems to be the case that taking a bunch of debug symbols and turning that back into the original C++ code, it's almost there. You could, if you know what you're looking for, if you are seeking to answer a question about the function of a particular C++ class, you can probably find it. But if you just say you want all of the C++ classes all unilaterally reversed, there isn't a very good linking that I could see that understood putting the code in the right files, in the right folders, such that the original source code regenerates in an automated fashion, that the human does not have to put human input designating which code goes in which file, which you would think would be what you would want, right? That if the system is working properly in that situation, you would have the entire source code. It would spawn back automatically in a procedural way that a human simply clicks the go button and the rest is automatic. That didn't seem to be what we had from the leak from Brad Chan's team. So unfortunately, I found myself back on my code just even more frustrated by the reality that someone else already has something approximating perhaps what I was trying to do and to create and obtain. Which is kind of demoralizing, to live in a world where you work for 5 years on something and at some point you're reminded that someone else already has that. For anybody who's played World of Warcraft, it's actually a pretty similar experience. If you ever level up to the maximum level in World of Warcraft, and maybe in like Classic or something where it takes a very long time to do, and then you go and realize that you can buy the character upgrades, and then actually if you talk to someone from the office at Blizzard, or perhaps in my case, I guess it was like one of the test servers, public test realms you can get invited into sometimes in World of Warcraft just as a user. And if you realize that there's fundamentally a free button that can be clicked an indefinite number of times that is create max level character, and you just click that button and it creates a max level character, you're reminded at some point of the futility of our lives and accomplishments, and it does cause you to question, why did we spend the time trying to do and accomplish things if indeed someone else has a magic button that does them instantly from the beginning? And it's a kind of similar problem in the case of rewriting Warcraft 3. At some point you realize someone else already has Warcraft 3, and so what you get out of it is the journey. What you get out of it, I guess, is what you put in, and that the end product will always be eclipsed by someone else's end product that they already had from the moment you started. And if they just gave you that, if you could just send them an exorbitant sum of money and they would just give you that, that would have probably been a lot easier, because the time investment that it would take you to write a Warcraft 3 could have been spent doing literally anything that makes even a trickle of money. And if you actually worked for 5 years at McDonald's and you think about all the money you would have made, and if you saved all that money somewhere, and then maybe that would be enough money that you could actually just send that to Brad Chan and be like, hey, can I just make my own Reforged off of the original 2016 code? But he would say no, like every person before him. No, you don't want that. You think you do, but you don't. And then you'd have to think about, what do you want? What is the meaning of life? What are you working towards? Where are you going? What was the reason that you would do anything? And those are great questions. What are we doing? What are we trying to do here? Am I going to win this map that I'm playing, or am I just playing around? What are we trying to do? What are we going to accomplish? What's the goal? Am I going to destroy my opponents and win the game, or am I just going to run in circles? Just let it slip. That is a good question. That's a pretty good question. What is the answer to that? You know, what are we trying to accomplish? And somewhere in my mind, pretty sure I knew what I was going to accomplish. I was pretty sure of that from when I started. I think that what I was going to accomplish was proving that if I could make spin-offs, make my own version of, you know, what if I had the code? What if I was the guy who made the decisions? That I would show that something really fascinating and interesting would have come out of that. And I think that over the last few years, by making weird forks, or I suppose branches is a better term, of the code in War Smash, where I had, you know, 9-item inventory, or a World of Warcraft character that would drop into the map whenever I push escape and run around and fight the enemies, or these other kinds of interesting sorts of things, or you know, a smaller, different kind of fun UI and other sorts of stuff like that that was minimalist on the screen. You think about all those fun ideas. I think in a lot of ways I did actually sort of prove my point already, and not that I wouldn't want to continue what I'm doing. I think that trying to get closer to the original source code is always a good thing on this project, and always brings us closer. You could imagine if all my units clicking across the map would just actually know how to get there, instead of me having to say, hey, by the way, go here, go here, go here, go here. I know your pathing algorithm sucks, absolute dog poop, but if we could just, you know, go here, go here, go here, go here, we can find the way, and then suddenly it's dark, so I don't actually know where to go from there, but yeah, from there just attack, move over here. You think of something like that, and also, we don't have formations together, and so the warden runs away from all the other units, which would be terrible in the actual game, because then she would just go die. Now you think about something like that, or this crap right here. Do you see this crap? These units are all trying to reach the same point, but they're all running into each other, so they're not reaching the point, which means they'll never reach the point, which means now, because of that, they'll never proceed on. Like, once he got out of the way, then they got out of the way. But now he's not going to know to run all the way around. That's a terrible pathing algorithm. You know, this is not Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3 is better than this. So anyway, yeah, if you could resolve all that, that would be fun. But I think I've shown my point that it is fun. That if you imagine a world where somebody's playing this like I'm doing right now, and, you know, right now I'm not in the code, I'm just in the game, but if I open up the code and say, you know, actually, I'm just not going to put up with bad pathing anymore, and go and rewrite the pathing algorithm or something, that, you know, that's something I can do. I could do that, you know, tomorrow or something, and you know, it would solve the problem, and I'll have the problem solved forever for the rest of my life, because I'll write it down. And so I feel like my point is actually correct of whatever I originally set out to prove, that if instead of the world editor I used the source code, I'd get a better result, probably. Now, sometimes you get this screen vibration. Can you see that? I don't know if my frame capture is good enough to show you that, but this is fascinating. So this is I'm doing a mouse wheel drag. This would never happen on Warcraft 3. And it's jittering between two different locations, which each of them, as the mouse moves at that location, it jumps to the other of the two, and then simultaneously jumps back. It's hard to describe. You could find in the source code why this is happening, and this would obviously never happen on Warcraft 3. But that's because I wrote my own system for mouse middle wheel click, moving the camera around, and trying to pin the mouse to the ground. And that system does not work correctly up and down cliffs, because it is incorporating the cliff into where it thinks the mouse is when you're dragging it around-ish, kind of, sort of. And so if you get the camera on a cliff, the camera will go up and down, and then create a weird delta offset of what we think we're jumping through, even though, you know, most of the time it's fine, but not in that particular case. So, anyway, yeah, I think that was my long roundabout way of sharing how, you know, sometimes it's a little bit frustrating that I kind of wish I was already done on this interesting project. And if you look at this project, it's not done. You know, I think there's some interesting folks on the internet who are trying to take this project and recompile it for Android. I guess they really wanted to play Warcraft 3 on Android. But, you know, I haven't really helped them very much. I wasn't really interested in that. And I think that one of the problems you're going to see, you know, if these people take it seriously, if they work really hard to recompile this thing in Android, obviously, like, as soon as you have an Android version of this particular program, you know, if I go back to the original desktop client and add a bunch of features so that, you know, when a wisp clicks on a tree, now that tree lights up correctly or something, or actually I accidentally double-clicked the wisps and selected 13 of them. That's funny enough that I can select more than 12, which is I unset the limit and allowed 13 like that the other day just for entertainment value. But if you know, if you can see there, I clicked the wisps and I clicked the trees, and the wisps didn't all go harvest the trees. Now this guy's confused; he doesn't know where to go. But if I click over here, he'll go, because, you know, it's not Warcraft 3. It's some approximate invention of the mind. You know, how do I think it would be? And I'm wrong about so many things. And the original game, the wisps would all just spread out on all the trees, you know, because it's polished. Some guy spent the time to make sure that would actually work. I think, actually, I forget, but I'm pretty sure it would. So, basically, my point is, when I fix all that stuff so that, you know, the wisps actually do spread out correctly, or clicking a tree makes the tree light up and show a yellow circle flashing under it and that sort of thing, you know, as soon as you fix all of that, then the guy who's made some kind of Android fork thing, he has to try to figure out how to merge all of that. And that becomes, you know, software management. That becomes a big time investment thing where your time burns. You know, or another one I think is particularly in my mind would be really fun. Look at this tavern. This tavern sucks. It doesn't sell any heroes. I want a tavern to sell heroes. Why doesn't the tavern sell heroes? The answer is because I didn't program the unit selling function at all into the game. So, you know, once I add that, then the guy who made an Android fork of my thing, he's going to be suffering. He's going to be like, dude, why doesn't my tavern work? And I'll be like, well, my tavern works. You know, it works on my computer. And then he'll have to figure out how to, like, merge that or something, right? So it's not really a good time even, I would think, to try to port it to Android, because it's not what they would want. Like, they want Warcraft 3 on Android, right? And so it's tempting to do. You look at it and think, whoa, this almost looks like the source code of Warcraft 3 except in Java. Whoa, that's so cool. But it's not Warcraft 3, right? And it's not about to be, unless, I don't know, unless if there's somebody on the internet that wants, you know, me to send them a whole bunch of money and they'll just make it into Warcraft 3, which I don't even know if that's legal. But frankly, you know, if there was someone smart enough to do it, might have an interesting discussion with them. But anyway, you know, it's probably not going to happen. It's an interesting time to be alive. You know, it's an interesting time to be alive, and I don't regret, you know, the journey. I think that I enjoyed the journey very much of what I was doing. We all make our choices, and, you know, I made mine of what to do with those weekend after weekend of trying to see, you know, can I just make this thing do this? And then even when I kind of got lazy and wasn't doing a whole lot, merging code from the GitHub contributors to do awesome, cool things like Fog of War on the minimap, you know, that was really cool, to have other people continue the project, even when I was, I don't know, just being kind of demoralized or something. And or part of the time, actually, I was writing features no one can see, like reworking the way that the JAS system works so that my JAS code is smarter and can better handle multiple sleeping triggers at a time and things like that. But you know, that those fundamentals aren't all there. It's not Warcraft 3, and wishing it was is interesting. And so then I wondered to myself, you know, did the folks at Activision, Microsoft, did they actually leak the debug symbols just to try to make a guy like me wish that he had what he doesn't have, you know, to make it even more frustrating to think, you know, they could have just I don't know, worked together or something, been friends, sent each other some code, and made Warcraft in Java into a real thing for nerds on the internet to screw around with, like Minecraft, you know. In fact, this system in front of me, the things that are rendering, is rendering on LWJGL, which is what was used to build Minecraft. It might be that if Minecraft didn't exist, LWJGL wouldn't have been maintained, and maybe this project here wouldn't even exist in its current form. Perhaps you could think of it as Warcraft programmed on Minecraft, although it surely isn't. But it's also not Warcraft 3 programmed on Blizzard's engine. So what an interesting thing. But I do to some extent find that I wish that I had the entire thing and not only part of the thing. And, maybe after this video I'll go and make it that the tavern sells Tavern Heroes, tomorrow or something for fun. That would be kind of nice. How cool would that be? There's going to be a day I'm going to be playing this and I'm going to think, you know what? I want to go and get a Dark Ranger so I can use Black Arrow and make skeletons. And then I'm going to go to the tavern and it doesn't work and I'm going to just be sad. And if I program in the concept of hero sales from a tavern, then that concept's going to work the rest of my life when I run my own code here. But, I don't even have upkeep. So, there's a lot of things that I could do. And whenever I talk to GitHub contributors, whenever I talk to really smart people who have contributed things to this project and try to do stuff, it's sort of like I'm never there for them. Because software management is an interesting beast. And, I have a job. I have things to do, to care about that aren't this, to keep my living going. And I don't know that I really want to tie my living to this because I don't really have any faith that any other human being would want to pay me to make it how I see it. To try to create a scaffolding to ask that question of if someone made their own Reforged, if someone was free to dream of what different spin-off of Warcraft 3 would they want to have? When I think about wanting to ask that question, that's actually not the question most humans want to ask. Most humans, if they want to make a video game, they can do that. You could open up Unreal Engine. I actually did. I have a video. I opened up Unreal Engine in 2019 before I started this project, and I made a little world with some trees and some units, and I could click the units and right-click, and they would walk around. And I made that in 2 hours or something. I don't know. The concept. The time it takes to define a unit and have it right-click around. In this system in front of us, I had to invent what is a unit and tie that to a model instance in the 3D scene at an XYZ value. You don't have to do that on Unreal. They just have this actor concept, and you're just put an actor, actor walk to point or something like that, and it just figures it out, doop doop, because they already have some kind of positional path seek AI, whatever the heck. You don't have to do that. Over here, I had programmed in A-star. I went to the Wikipedia page of, Pathfind. How does that work? You right-click over here, we A-star, the grid of the thing. And you could see she bumped in this little wall and had to turn around to get over there. Now she's going to get killed by all these guys on accident. But just in premise, it's like 10x effort for the same result versus if you just made something on Unreal Engine. And the only reason of doing that effort for me was pretty much because I was used to Java. I had some stuff going on in Java for trying to imitate Warcraft, in my Warcraft 3 model editor people use for the actual Warcraft game, Retera Model Studio. And I also had, on top of the liking of Java, I kind of thought that doing it my own way would make it really easy for me to tweak little things. Just tweak little things so that the little things look exactly like Warcraft 3. So you have these people who look at this and they're just like, that's a game of Warcraft 3 they're playing there, sir. And so it's really interesting, but anyway, yeah, all right, in summary, what am I trying to say? So I'm trying to rewrite the game, but sometimes it's a little bit demoralizing, and I'm not really there for the people who need it to be because I got my own life to live, and I'm just having fun, and sometimes their goals, their fun that they're having is different than mine. And humans are creatures of habit. We all do different things. But my fun would be so much funner if someone would just send me the source code of Frozen Throne from 2016 and also change it so that it used OpenAL instead of Miles Emulated 3D. Although, you know what? I could change it to use OpenAL instead of Miles Emulated 3D. That wouldn't be that hard. I could figure that out. So anyway, and I think it already had a switch mode that would make it switch to OpenGL back then. So then you think about, that's not that far off, So anyway, yeah. Did they publish the debug symbols just to try to troll me, to make me think to myself, ooh, I wish I used that instead of this? Maybe. Maybe. But what do you do about that? I looked at it and it was boring. It was so boring. You know what's fun about this? If you start from an empty 3D context, if you make a new libgdx game that doesn't render anything on the screen, and then you render piece by piece back up to where I am here in front of me, there's always something interesting and fun to do. You have visual feedback as you build along. You know, if somebody sat down and said, you know, oh, I actually want to try to just, you know, ask an AI-ish thing to like reverse Warcraft 3 back to a source code I can compile and all in one fell swoop spawn up the game from the outside. It's boring. It's so boring because you're not going to see on the screen a visual feedback of what you're constructing unless you're really smart about it, because it's kind of all or nothing. That's kind of the point, right? Is instead of a gradual build to try to eventually overcome the original, you just want the original. So you either have it or you don't. If you have 20% of it, then that entails doing human effort. You know, how did you get there? How did you land in the middle of something that either is or isn't? So anyway, you know, I have, you know, the 20% of it or the 40% of it because it's not it. You know, it's not the original. It's just something I made. And it's so fun. This is great, you know. I had a good time. I've had a good time. I hope I continue on this. But life sometimes gets in the way, you know. Is it a conspiracy? Is it the AI? Or maybe I'm just lazy, you know, that I have things to do and friends to talk to and places to go. And a lot of times it's not this. But when I get back to this, you know, I do have times where I think to myself, I kind of wish that I just, instead of the 40%, you know, 40% of the way there, I kind of wish that I just had the yes or no, the Boolean of having it. And yet, I look, you know, can you get that from where we are now? Is that what they're selling? No, they're not selling that. They don't have that. Even on a bad day, you know, the C++ is all different. If you look at their abilities, if they sent me the code right now and you said, oh, why don't you just port that code to Java and just put it in Warsmash? It's completely different. They have this concept of a C agent pointer that's used for abilities inside of units. And so anytime you have an ability that interacts with another ability, and I'm trying to think what would be an example of that, but one of the orbs, let's go back to my base and buy an orb. Now, I don't think on Warsmash the orbs don't even work, but if we go back to my base and buy an orb over here, I can explain to you. Now, of course, in order to purchase an orb, I'm going to need one of these Ancient of Wonders. And then you think to yourself, why don't I already have an Ancient of Wonders? I don't know, it's just, you know, messing around. But anyway, okay, so we go over here, Ancient of Wonders. You know, I'm on my system. Oh, it looks like I can't actually sell the Ancient of Wonders while it's under construction. Can I sell the Ancient Wonders here? Oh, yes, I can. See, you couldn't do that on Warcraft 3. That was so broken. Did you see that? I can't click the Ancient of Wonders. I'm just clicking through it. Its hitbox isn't loading, but I can shift select a unit of building, which you cannot shift select a unit of building on Warcraft 3. And I sold an item to it when it wasn't finished constructing. You can't sell an item to it when it's not finished constructing on Warcraft 3. That's stupid too. So anyway, that's all crazy. I mean, I'm not playing Warcraft 3, right? But anyway, you buy one of these orbs, right? And the orb has like some kind of ability of like slowing. And I was looking at one of these orbs in the source code of Warcraft 3, and I was thinking to myself, like, you know, could we just paste that into Warsmash? And it wasn't. I think I was actually looking at the Orb of Lightning, but it was like the orb had two abilities, and one of the abilities in its C++ code is like when you finish attack, right? There's just a virtual overload for the C abilities, finish attack function. And when you finish attacking, it looks up the other ability on the unit, and it gets one of these C agent pointers, and it basically like constructs, you know, it's sort of like if you think about like a shared pointer in C++, it's like we sort of implicitly allocate one of these shared pointers to the thing, and then, you know, that increases the reference count of the handle agent concept of the ability. Similar, I suppose, to if you had like a JAS reference to the ability, probably. That we're actually, you know, reference counting who's hitting that ability. We count it up, you know, and then we, at that point, when the attack is landing, trigger the other of the two abilities, you know. So in Orb of Venom, it would maybe be like a slow ability as it's landing on the other thing, and then, you know, apply that. Or, you know, poisoning. I guess I'm thinking poisoning slow. Actually, maybe that's, you know, Orb of Slow is the only one that slows me. I forget if the Orb of Venom poison slows or not. You can see here it says attacking air. Or sorry, you know, after attacks become ranged when attacking air, they also poison the enemy when it lands. So that poison is kind of what I'm talking about. This idea that orbs have different effects when they land. I was reading one of them in the original source code, when I was looking at this idea that we have like a C agent pointer thing that counts up. And I don't do any of that in Java. I just have Java variables. I'm like, I've got an array list in Java for the abilities, and I'm like, oh, for each ability, get one. So you could put an analogous concept, but you're not going to be able to execute the same thing because it's garbage collected in Java. So I don't reference count that. And then you think about wait a minute, if I don't reference count it, how does JAS work? Because JAS needs to reference count, right? And no, I don't reference count at JAS. The remove location function in my JAS universe in this game here, it doesn't do anything. I just leave it for the garbage collector. I'm just like, all right. So it's totally incompatible. It's totally like you just have to rewrite it. Maybe you could have like an LLM try to figure it out, but the LLM's going to hallucinate to all crap back. And so it isn't. It isn't Warcraft 3. You would have to have an army of humans continue on this project to continue reinventing every ability until that ability works or doesn't work. Like how my blink ability can actually blink outside of the map, or like hold position over here. She's not holding position. I click hold position and she runs away. There was like a different version of War Smash where I had hold position working one time, but all the refactors just break that stuff. I don't know why. I don't remember why. You could probably try to fix it, but hold position didn't even work. Why doesn't hold position work? It works over here. She's like, oh, I'm totally holding position, but she's not. It just means that, like, I don't know, she'll probably go back to that position when she finishes fighting or something, maybe. I'm not even sure. It's like halfway there, but it's broken. All these things are broken, and they're not compatible at all. They're totally different. They're a different flavor of solving the same problem. So, I don't know. Where does that leave us? Maybe the debug symbols are just a giant troll. You're not going to put that one into this one. And who in the blazes is going to finish this one? And all the humans are just going to go back and play on Reforged because that's where the real one is, kind of. It's they have all the code and I don't. I'm just screwing around. So yeah, I don't know. What do you take away from that? I think I'm gonna go take a break, finish up my video here, but I don't have the answer, and I wish that I did. Brad Chan will probably never watch this video because it'll be way too long, but if he has nothing to do when he watches this video, it would actually be really fun for Brad Chan if he actually goes to my GitHub where I have the source code of this entire rewrite of the game and just contribute the rest of all the code ever invented onto that. But why would he do that? It could endanger his career. He gains nothing, and it's kind of stupid. Meanwhile, why is this guy affected by healing ward aura? What's that? That's super broken. Is Brad Chan gonna fix that? No, I don't even know if I'm gonna fix that. That's stupid. I'm pretty sure I think the guy who made the JSON ability made a fixed version or something. I just didn't merge it over here. So anyway, if there's any humans who actually watched this whole time, it probably meant they were relaxing and they needed something to think about in their life, to think about what's happening on Warcraft 3. Where are we going? What are we doing? Can we just relax and think to ourselves for a little while? Give some attention to the idea of rewriting the game and who's in charge? Can we make spin-offs? Can we do cool things? And why do the cool things never get finished? But I think that the answer is not clear to me. The answer is not clear to me at all, and I think that the world is going to step in and tell me to stop doing this. Get me to go chase some money and food more or something. Be a little bit healthier, sleep longer hours. Whatever. The landscape of doing things in the world is everything's attention economy. AI is going to take over the world. Maybe pretty soon there's going to be a law from the government that all software has to be written by AI. You can't have a human do it because humans are dangerous. Once we get to that kind of future, that's going to mean that humans are dangerous. They're not allowed to make code. Only AI can make code, and the AI is going to be made by 3 big companies who will be the only people that can give the approvals to what the AI can and can't write. And so in that kind of future, no one's going to be able to write something like this kind of Java halfway remake of Warcraft 3 because the AI would simply tell you that's unethical, that violates something. I don't know what that violates, to be honest. I'm not a lawyer, and if I was a lawyer, I probably would have done it anyway because I think that humans should be allowed to do something stupid like this. This is not taken out of the revenue of Blizzard, I don't think. If you've ever played this Java rewrite somehow, some way, without getting the original Warcraft from Blizzard, which I don't know how you do that because this thing only launches if you give it the Blizzard assets. Or I did actually publish a game that plays on this engine without the Blizzard assets one time, but it wasn't very fun. No one's going to play that, I don't think. I mean, you could, but I don't want to. I don't typically play that. So, like, basically what I'm saying is if people are playing stuff on this engine, they're probably playing Warcraft 3, and if they're playing Warcraft 3 on this engine, they probably got the original Warcraft 3. Where'd they get that? So, in my mind, I'm not a distributor of the art assets here. I'm just, I wrote some code for, like, making mods and screwing around and doing it all in Java like this, and so that code, that part that I made is available, but... Anyway, all I'm saying is if you manage to play that part that I made somehow while, pirating the Warcraft assets or something and putting it into that, that's on you, and you should probably buy Reforged if you're doing that. Maybe this video will get some boost to the Reforged revenue or something. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying, like I said, I would have done it anyway, even if if we lived in a world where all code had to be made by AI, and AI said that you couldn't make a knockoff Warcraft remake because that's infringing upon the Warcraft, and so instead you have to make a new thing. I don't know, actually, maybe I would have just made a new thing because it would be instant. You could just ask an AI to do it. But why not both? Why not? There's so many new games people make. Why don't you make games and let yourself ask the question? What would happen if you could actually do your own Reforged, your own way, your own mod of Warcraft? That actually had the source code modding, so you'd actually make progress. Because, to be honest, the world editor's kind of 20 years in the past. Anyway, so I think that's interesting. The future is probably pretty bleak. I don't really know how to win against AI. I think that Microsoft's probably going to make some really big AI stuff, like Copilot. It's going to make everyone's life worse. They're going to force it down everyone's throats. There's nothing you can do about it. And all we can do is to enjoy our lives and every day that we have. And I know that I enjoyed the days while I was rewriting this game in Java for my silly, ridiculous reasons. And then I'll probably enjoy tomorrow because, that's what you got to do. Is just enjoy the time you have. So anyway, that's some fun with the War Smash project, and I hope that anybody watching this has a good day. If anybody is watching this, I don't know if they will. I think the video is too long and rambling and just fun running around. But I think it's interesting to talk about. Most of the time I made videos of this system, I didn't really talk about it very much while running it. Sometimes there were some videos of me talking about it, and sometimes there were videos of me running it. But I haven't really had that many videos of me running it while talking about it. Maybe a little bit, but not too much. So thought that would be fun. All right. Yep. Hope you guys have a good one.